Imagine you retire on a Friday. You've done everything right. You saved for decades. You built a nice nest egg. And then, over the next 10 years, the stock market goes nowhere. Not a crash, not a boom, just up, down. And when you check your statement 10 years later, you're basically back where you started. Here's a question almost nobody asks before they retire. What would that decade do to your income? Not your account balance on paper, your actual income, the money you're living on. Today, I want to walk you through exactly what happens in that scenario if part of your money is in a fixed indexed annuity. And I think the answer is going to change how you think about market risk in retirement. So let's define our terms. A sideways market doesn't mean nothing happens. It means the market moves, sometimes a lot, but when you zoom out over several years, it ends up roughly where it started. We've actually lived through this before. Look at the S&P 500 from the year 2000 to about 2012. In that window, we had the dot-com crash, a strong recovery, the 2008 financial crisis, and another recovery. If you'd invested at the start of 2000 and just held on, 12 years later your principal was roughly flat. 12 years of a roller coaster and you ended up right back where you started. Now, here's why this matters more for retirees than it does for someone in their 30s. If you're still working, a flat decade is annoying, but you have time to recover. If you're retired and pulling income out from that account, a flat decade combined with withdrawals can be a completely different story. And that's what we need to talk about next. Let's say you retire with your money fully invested in the market and you're taking withdrawals every year for income. Even if the market's average return over 10 years works out to roughly zero, that does not mean your account is unaffected. It can actually mean something much worse. Here's why. When you take a withdrawal during a year the market is down, you're not just spending money, you're locking in that loss. That money is gone, and it's no longer there to participate when the market eventually recovers. This is what financial professionals call sequence of returns risk, and it's one of the most underappreciated dangers in retirement planning. Two retirees can have the exact same average return over 10 years and end up in completely different places, just based on the order those returns happened in. If the losses hit early, in the first few years of retirement, while you're also withdrawing income, that damage compounds. Your account has less money working for it in the good years that follow. So a sideways market isn't neutral for a retiree who's withdrawing income. Depending on the order of the ups and downs, it can quietly erode your nest egg, even though the overall average looks fine on paper. This is exactly the risk a fixed index annuity is designed to address. Let's look at how. A fixed index annuity works differently from a typical brokerage or retirement account, and understanding this one distinction is the key to this whole video. Your money is not directly invested in the stock market. Instead, the insurance company credits interest to your account based on the performance of an index, often something like the S&P 500. But your principal itself isn't exposed to market losses. Most fixed index annuities have what's called a floor, and typically that floor is zero. That means if the index the annuity is tracking has a negative year, your account does not lose value because of that market performance. It simply doesn't grow that year. In a positive year, your account gets credited some portion of that gain based on how your particular contract calculates interest. This might be through a cap, a participation rate, or a spread. We'll come back to what that trade-off means in a few minutes. I do want to be fully transparent here. The zero floor protects you from market losses specifically. It does not mean your account can never go down under any circumstance. Fees, optional riders, or if you take a withdrawal yourself, those can still reduce your account value. So, this isn't a promise that your number never moves. It's a promise that market losses, specifically, don't touch your principal. With that foundation, let's walk through what a sideways decade actually looks like inside a contract like this. Let's go back to that same sideways decade we talked about earlier. Imagine you're 10 years into your fixed index annuity contract, and the index it's tracking has behaved the way the market did from 2000 to 2012. Some strong up years, some rough down years, and an ending point close to where it started. Here's what your FIA experienced along the way. In the up years, your account was credited some portion of that gain. Maybe not the full move in the index, but a real locked in credit. In the down years, your account simply didn't grow. It didn't participate in the loss. So think about what that means when you add it all up. The market ended up flat, but your FIA didn't experience flat. It experienced a series of gains in the good years and zeros in the bad years. There's no year where you have to claw back losses because there are no losses to claw back from. That's the fundamental difference between how a traditional portfolio experiences a sideways market and how a fixed indexed annuity experiences the exact same 10 years. The market's path was choppy. Your account's path inside the FIA was a staircase. Flat steps in the bad years, upward steps in the good years, but never a step down because of market performance. This is why the sequence of returns problem we talked about earlier simply doesn't apply the same way to money inside a properly structured FIA. There's no bad sequence to worry about because there's no down sequence at all from market losses. Now let's connect this back to the real reason most of my clients look at fixed index annuities in the first place, which is income. Many pre-retirees and retirees use an FIA for a specific portion of their portfolio, the piece they're depending on for guaranteed or predictable income, not their entire nest egg. Just the portion where they cannot afford a bad sequence of returns to derail their retirement. This isn't about trying to outperform the market. It's not a growth strategy competing with your stock portfolio. It's a protection strategy for the income you're counting on, especially in those critical years right before and right after you retire, when a bad sequence of returns does the most damage. If you're relying on withdrawals to pay your bills every month, the worst thing that can happen is a market crash in year 1 or 2 of retirement. An FIA is specifically built to remove that particular risk from that particular piece of your plan. A fixed index annuity will typically not fully capture a strong bull market year. If the index has a great year, your credited gain is usually limited by a cap, a participation rate, or a spread, depending on how your contract is designed. That's not a flaw, it's the trade-off. You're giving up some upside in the great years in exchange for giving up all the downside in the bad years. For the right piece of your portfolio, that trade-off can make a lot of sense. For your entire net worth, it might not. That's a conversation worth having with someone who can look at your specific numbers. So here's my question for you. Do you actually know what a flat or down market would do to your specific retirement income plan? Not in general terms, but with your actual numbers. If you want to learn more, check out the free booklet called Retire Smart. It's linked on the page in the description box. And if you found this helpful, subscribe to the channel because we cover exactly these kinds of retirement decisions every week. This is Retirement Security Simplified, where we specialize in turning confusion into confidence, one conversation at a time.